Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 184 of Kouryer podcast. Our today's guest is Mr. Alex Negrea. He's a senior character artist at Gearbox, Quebec, based in Calgary, Canada. And of course, before we get into all the juicy questions, the details, and all of that, let me quickly give a shout out that in the for contact section of the captions, which you can see, it's literally just above the introduction. You can see his Instagram ID, so you can go follow his page if you want. You can see the link to his art station to see more of his artworks and more in detail stuff, and a link to his YouTube channel, which there is actually I linked a specific YouTube video which everyone should watch if you're interested in the designing mechs in Blender. Blender is so hot right now. I mean, that video is it actually taught me a lot. So I hope it's like a full detailed 40 minutes, extensive tutorial. I really learned a lot about it, and you should probably check it out as well. Wink, wink. And a link to his Gumroad and a link to his Twitter as well. So if you want, you can check them out as well. And yes, on his Gumroad, there's actually a lot of cool stuff. There's a lot of real-time videos and high-res JPEGs of some of his stuff, which you can check it out. They're all 5-star rated basically. And yeah, I mean, if you're into illustration, all that stuff, I know. Yeah, that's the reason you're probably watching his episodes. So you might as well check it out. And yeah, with that quick introduction out of the way, let's quickly jump into the first question, the signature question of the podcast, basically, which I ask everyone. It's one of those questions. And no, it's not a surprise question that I mentioned before.
Yeah.
Which is, give us a little introduction on how we got into the world of visual arts and design. Basically, tell us the story of that moment that when you realize in your life that, oh, I want to become an artist. How's that story for you?
Well, just a quick 2 words: by chance. It was so random that I couldn't have predicted. Kind of enjoyed drawing as a kid. I was born in Romania and I lived there for more than half of my life. I moved to Canada in my 20s, but I only started drawing super late because I didn't know this is a career. This was before forums. I mean, internet was probably popular in America, but in Romania we didn't really have it till later on. By the way, I saw when you're speaking that there's this audio thing at the bottom, and yes. When I speak, there's nothing moving. Is it recording my audio?
It is recording, and for me, you're moving pretty loud. Actually, don't worry, but.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure.
No worries.
Because as soon as you stopped talking, it was a flat line. So yeah, it was all by chance. I was going to they call it a real school. You have humane and real. I don't know if I'm translating this right, but languages and then the sciencey stuff like math and stuff. So I finished high school, and there was this time where you need to pick up a university where you want to go. And I want to follow up in my my parents' direction. They were both engineers, and I thought that's what I'm supposed to do because I want to make my parents proud, which is a big wrong thing to think about as a youngster. Never try to make your parents proud, do yourself proud. And yeah, I went to this informatics school because I thought maybe that's related to what they do, and they would be happy if I had this career as an informatician. And after 1 year there, I realized that that's not for me. I barely passed the first year, with minimum credits, I might say. It's I was a 5 student out of a 1 to 10 scale, and 5 is a minimum to pass. And man, it felt super shitty. It felt like I'm worthless and I can't do anything. So that made me think of what I like, what I think I like. And again, by chance, I have a friend that was studying these languages, and she was like, "Oh, I'm gonna go to this second university." She wanted to do both, and she's gonna go for a design. And I was like, "Man, but how can you go there? Aren't you a bit arrogant? You don't draw, you don't." And yeah, whatever. And then I was like, "Man, maybe." I should try to, because I enjoyed drawing as a kid in my drawing classes, and I thought maybe there's a chance. And I knew that, okay, like if I'm gonna go there, it's like my last chance to do something under my parents' pay, because till that point, like they would pay for everything for me, like they would pay for my rent, for my school, for whatever. In Romania, I don't really have this mentality that, okay, when the kid is 16, he needs to get a summer job or whatever. Like, no, they kind of pay for you until you're done with college, and they support you. Like, I don't know, like it's like if you compare Romanians with the birds, that like, okay, when the chick is like big enough, it flies from the nest. No, like Romanian parents stay with you till the end. Like they support you for some reason, and that's not really healthy. Maybe things have changed because like I'm a grown up for like almost 20 years now, but yeah, like back in the day, like that's how it was. Like you would get this parent support till forever, and I had that friend that joined the design college without knowing how to draw, and I thought like, okay, if she can do it, I can do it too. So I went there without a portfolio. I didn't have any drawings, but fortunately, it was like one of those paid schools. It was a bit more expensive than the regular school, which is still cheap. Like it was like probably $2,000 per year, which is like if you compare it with America, where you get $30,000 or $50,000 per year, is like crazy. But yeah, like I studied 3 years under that program, so I spent $6,000 in 3 years. So it is not big of a deal. And because I felt it's my last chance to prove myself, I really gave it all, and that's how I ended up drawing professionally. I basically drew continuously for 3 years, and I caught up and passed all the other students. Not to sound arrogant or anything, but the other students that came with an art background, they studied in art high school, were kind of like lazy and into like everything but drawing. They had this feeling, okay, I know how to draw because I did it for a long time, but it wasn't the truth. Like they didn't have that critical eye. So my mentality was like, okay, like let's kill it, because like if I don't get a job after I finish this school, I'm gonna be like dead in the water. So actually, like my story is like has a happy ending. I got a job even before I finished school. So it was like back in the day when forums were popular. So I was like constantly online and promoting myself and like doing all kinds of like how do you call it, like social media stuff. There wasn't a term back then for social media, but I was like promoting myself like crazy, and I was posting everywhere, like interacting with the community. And yeah, like that's like the gist of it, I guess. Let me know if I should expand on anything.
No, actually, like there's a couple of things I want to ask you. First off, which is something pretty interesting to me to know, is if you don't mind me asking, like how old were you when you enrolled in the art school, by the way?
I think so. I can tell you the date, and then we maybe can do the math. I started in drawing in November 2009.
All right.
So 2022. See, like I'm not a mathematician. So.
Or is
Yes, 2009.
because I'm asking this because I want people to know
years.
that.
And now I'm 33.
So
I was like 20.
All right, that's good. That's good, because a lot of people, like, they're like 19 or 20 or 21, and they're like, oh my god, it's so late. For example, they see this like really good artists that have started since they were like 8 or 7 or 10 or 12, and they're like, oh, I'm behind. No, it's not like that. And another interesting point that you mentioned is that you weren't really necessarily from art background in contrast to your peers, but it kind of like just went past them, just you left them in the dust, as you said. And I think here's a thing that I've seen a lot, which is for people who come from a different background, and it is not just about art, by the way. For example, let's say you want to become an engineer, but let's even do the reverse. Let's say you want to become an engineer, but you're from an art background, and you have a year to catch up of 3 years of education. That type of person will outclass classes, honestly.
Yeah.
And yeah, passion is important, people. Passion is the thing that you would do even if you didn't get any money for. Remember that.
Yeah, like as I feel like it's important what you said, like that passion, and when it comes from inside you that you want to do something, it's gonna be way easier than someone that goes to a class because it's forced to go. I mean, I've been in my entire life in schools, and I felt like I was forced to go there, but I didn't really care about most of the topics. Like I would have like I always say that probably like if I would have had courage, like I would have also pursued music and like stuff like that as a youngster. But they were like like it's funny because like each time I bring this music subject, it's like I also give the example why I didn't study music, because I had these like ideas. Like first of all, my parents wanted to give me take me to this music teacher so I can learn, like when I was like really young, like 6 years old probably. But when I heard his name, I didn't like his name, so I didn't want to go. So that's why like I shot myself in the foot, because probably like if I wouldn't have listened to this paranoia like thing in my head, like I could have started learning music at an early age, and my life would have been different. Also, like for a long time, I hated piano because I didn't like the black keys. I didn't understand why the black keys are there. It's like it's so stupid, but it's like, okay, I don't like the design of this product. I'm not going to use it. That was basically the my mentality. But funny enough, now I want to learn the piano, and I play on the iPad on GarageBand, and at the end of this year, I hope I will buy an actual synthesizer. So
Oh, those keyboard ones, yeah.
yeah. So yeah, like I have many hobbies and passions, and only when I started making money, I started to realize how important it is to follow your instincts and like what you want to do. I like music, I like photography, I like basically everything visual. I didn't try making movies or anything because I feel I don't like actually I think I don't like editing the movie, because it feels like, oh my god, like you need to cut this and then rewatch it and then cut and cut. Probably you know what I'm talking about because with the podcast. um, but yeah, like kind of like I realized that every domain is kind of interconnected, and you can learn from one place and implement it into another place. Even though they seemingly are not connected initially like, through any way, but that's funny because like the brain finds these connections, or like I think that's one of our advantages. We think like compared to all other creatures on earth, we have this abstract way of thinking, and that allowed us to invent things and come up with unique solutions to problems. Yeah.
Wow.
So
And here's the thing. Oh, sorry, go on. Were you going to ask something?
No, what was the question? Because I forgot.
No, you answered it pretty well. Like the question was basically, your whole journey of like, about like the art and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. There are some interesting points, again, in the stuff you said. One of the things I want to say is that even like, those scenarios when you probably talk to yourself, they're like, oh my God, if I had a time machine and I could get back and find my like younger self, I would have guided him like this or that, For me, one of those things is I'm not kidding. If I could get a time machine, I would go back to when I was 9 or 10 years old and force myself to drop out of school and pursue art, which is something that I've liked ever since. But for some reason, I'm not going to go into my story. People that my audience heard my story like 1,000 times. But the thing is, like, if I could, like, and that wouldn't even do any detriment to my future at all. Like, that's a crazy thing. If I would have, I mean, at the time, that would be the most riskiest thing ever, like drop out of just primary school, no high school, no college. Are you crazy? Yes, I'm crazy. I mean, and my life would have been much better, actually. And because everything by the way, I'm not trying to say like I've achieved something, because I haven't. I'm a nobody.
Nobody has achieved anything. I don't consider I achieved anything.
Yeah, but here's the thing. the things that I've achieved and I'm proud of, there's not a single bit of school education had any part in it. Not a single. It was all just my own personal passions and, the way I follow them. And yeah, it's like one of those, education system sucks. That's what I'm trying to say. And it's basically, puts every single different type of personality into like the same mold. And if you don't fit, you're worthless. And yeah, that's basically it. Like, that's a cookie cutter, pretty much education system that's all over the world. And the thing is, you spoke about hobbies. Like, I was kind of wondering, aside from art, do you have any other hobbies or passions or other stuff?
Yeah, well, I think my second biggest hobby is photography. Then music. Like, look at the guitar. I recently started listening to opera, not the U.S. personality, like music, which I find like I never understood it, but now it's kind of entertaining and like I don't know, like I never liked Mozart because like you have all these names that you grow up with. Okay, Mozart was a genius, or like Leonardo da Vinci was a genius, and like, come on, man, it's just a portrait, like Mona Lisa, whatever. But you start to appreciate what they did with more knowledge under your belt, I guess. And yeah, like that's what I'm saying. Like, I started in my 20s to draw. I was very arrogant and ego-driven, and I literally believed that there's the best artist in the world, and that could be me. But now that's the wrong way of thinking, I think. And I kind of learned that the hard way, in a way. I was really burned out after a while, and like all these inner seeds that I had for like different hobbies flourished in a way and saved me for like boredom and like quitting art like entirely. Like I was like really, really depressed with art like a few years ago. Like I didn't want to do it anymore. I felt like, okay, there's no point anymore. Because like as soon as that honeymoon ended, where you learn about colors, perspective, and things, you're like, okay, so what do I draw now? Because like now I have the skill to draw it, but I don't want to draw the same naked chick for Applebot like a million times. So that's where it changed for me. Like, it just didn't do it for me. Like I had no reward at the end of the day. It felt like I'm just like another, like a machine, like being paid to draw someone else's vision and like whatever. And now like through all these hobbies and stuff, I just like experiment. Like I don't even take art seriously anymore. I'm like I don't care about rules. Like I was showing my photography to a friend, and we were talking about tangents, and I was like, man, like they always tell you to avoid tangents in visual arts, but I made a point, and I have so many pictures that I think they're cool, compositionally wise and balanced and stuff, and they have tangents, and they wouldn't work if they didn't have those tangents. And that's I feel like right now all the rules have dropped for me, and I just experiment and try to enjoy. Of course, for work I still apply rules, because like otherwise like I would only draw weird shit and no one could use my art, because in the end I'm a production artist. But when I draw for myself, I just kind of let this stream of consciousness transform itself from thought to real physical thing on paper or on digital canvas, whatever. Because yeah, like probably anyone can draw like scribbles and colors and splashes of color, but in the end, it's only me can do what I'm about to do. And I'm just curious where I can reach with this mentality and what things I can do. I don't really care about AI art because right now I see a trend where everyone. Yeah, well, it's good for you, but for me, it's like, okay, it feels like this AI thing, it's useful for production, but for personal inner self stuff, I I wouldn't feel content with the images at the end, because it feels like I got a helping hand, and I don't really want to feel that. Like, I don't want to feel handicapped that I started with someone else's idea, even though it's true everything is a remix. Maybe you know that book. So yes, it's a very conflicting subject, at least in my mind. When I think about it, like sometimes I think maybe I shouldn't think like this, and I should embrace the AI thing. But at the end, I always feel like shitty. Like if I like generate a thing and then I paint over it, and it's like, it doesn't feel like I created it as much as a thing that I started from scratch and it just came out of me, like with all my experiences. And like basically we're kind of like a history book that it's written and you can pull out ideas from your past, but the AI doesn't know you, so it's going to do some things really different, and you don't get to show the world who you really are if you get that AI stuff. Like even if it's just it helps you to render the clouds or whatever, it's like some texture painting. You can do so much with your personality and grow something that is truly you. And the AI, I feel, steals that from you. And then what was the purpose? My purpose in life is not to create like a million pieces of art, because like I would rather create like 10 that are super good and mean something, and then like having like generate like 20 million keyframes per day, and at the end of the day I don't remember anything because like my brain is mush from all that data. And man, like I feel the social media kind of like trained us in this way to be lab rats and like produce as much as we can for people that we don't even care about. Like just like I feel like if you're just starting out and you're listening to this podcast, just draw what you like and enjoy it. I think the rewards for that will be much bigger than anything else like computers can give you or whatever. I don't know what I'm saying.
All right, like it's fun. Actually, there's a lot of like interesting things from the stuff you said, and let me actually I write notes. Actually, I'm a professional. Look at me. The thing is, like actually one of the first thing is about AI. Like the same, it's like NFTs that they popped up like 2021. There's always this such polarizing buzz around like every new emerging technology, and people take it to the extremes on both sides. I think sometimes, and that's not really healthy. We should see everything in all perspectives possible, and then proceed like with caution of like what's going on and everything. Like for example, I'm not gonna, by the way, go too much into NFTs. Don't worry. Like I'm not really interested in that subject that much. But the thing I want to mention is that a lot of the things that they say NFT technology and blockchain has brought, they make opportunities to artists. Well, I mean, we both know that's kind of like, not true right till now, and it's been pretty evident. Like, all of those things could be done with the existing technology that we had. Like, for example, you want to sell tickets online, we still can do it. All right, you want to sell exclusive tickets, it's a basic SQL, like, database, like that could literally sort that out. Am I wrong? Am I crazy? SQL is from 90s. You don't need NFTs. It's just a big fucking excuse. I'm sorry, I don't know, for cursing. By the way, it's free to curse on this podcast.
Okay.
I'm not sponsored by any.
So far.
Yeah.
I'm proud of myself.
Nice.
Because I usually curse.
Nice, fine, man. Be yourself.
My main language was.
Yeah. I don't even care even if it gets demonetized. It's fine. And the thing is, you could literally do that, but the thing with the NFTs was basically in a nutshell. And here's the thing: I'm one of those person who's always open-minded and try to research all sides of the same thing. That's how I even roll in video games, like in RPG games like Fallout or Skyrim. I try to go and listen to every faction's side of a story, then decide what I want to do with the world. It's the same. I'm the same person in real life as well. And the
I
thing
really play
is,
video games nowadays, but when I used to play, I really liked RPGs, and I played a lot of Gothic 2 and Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic. I kind of stopped when Mass Effect hit the stage. I feel like that was the. I mean, I wanted to play Mass Effect, but I didn't have the computer to play it.
oh god,
So that's where it stopped for me. Like at some point, the games couldn't work on my PC, and I was like, okay, like I'm gonna find something else to do. Like computers were kind of expensive back in the day.
yeah, yeah. And the thing is,
I
like,
really appreciate their RPGs.
yeah, you should try Fallout, by the way, if you want to try new like Fallout games. Have you tried them? Not the 76,
the only, the only
76.
games I've played as a grown up are GTA 5, Zelda Breath of the Wild, and Red Dead Redemption 2. And Tony Hawk Pro Skater 2 Remastered. Because that one like reminded me of my childhood and I wanted to play.
And the thing is, like, it's, as I said with NFTs, that's the whole problem. It's basically a big, gigantic sham, in my opinion. I mean, in theory, on paper, sounds like an interesting topic, And I don't know, like, I can't really find a good thing. And here's the thing: I used to be like a staunch defender of the whole thing. I thought like it had so many potentials, but when I checked other perspectives and I saw that the purpose of the NFTs that everyone is just clamoring about and say, oh, it's because of this. You could literally do that with very basic stuff that would still give the same result, even sometimes better.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, that's why I kind of like, I was so excited. I even interviewed a bunch of NFT artists, back in the day on a podcast. But now my, of course, views are changed. And by the way, I don't blame anyone who sells NFTs, because I know in a lot of countries that is not first world country, a selling of an NFT that you get crypto from could mean a lot to the artist's life. So I'm not judging anyone, by the way, like anything. I'm not.
Yeah, I don't care about this either.
Exactly. But the truth should be told, That's my opinion. And the thing with AI is, I mean, people are still doing the same thing. They're like, oh my God, the concept art world, like, there's so many like weird things you hear, like, someone saying like, this is cheating, that is that. No, the concept arts are.
You know what? Sorry for interrupting.
Yeah.
But I feel like with this NFT thing, I started seeing more weird art, which I really love, like art that no one would dare to create. like probably like I also hanged out too much in this concept art forums and website and stuff, and for a long time, like it literally felt like, okay, like we're only drawing soldiers and hot chicks here. And that's kind of it. But as I said, like I'm more interested now in like seeing what has everyone to say. Like, again, like I don't care if they generate it with AI and stuff, but if it's interesting, I only hate the AI art that I can tell it's made with AI, like the artist just like generates and then like posts it online. I'm like, okay, like I can tell this is like generated artwork. What did you bring? Like, you didn't write the code, you just typed a sentence, and like I don't consider that art. Like it doesn't feel like it has any purpose, even though it might look cool. But yeah, like I feel like with NFT, I saw many weird things and colorful and like abstract. I really start to appreciate abstract art too.
Now here's the thing. Yeah, you're actually like one of those few reasons that I really enjoyed the fact that this NFT boom happened, is that it also opened a lot of doors with a lot of like artists that they do like what they love. And I'm not saying that all of them are, but they're in, like, let's be honest, they're in minority. Like, but most people who get into NFTs, they're not really in it for the art. It's just another way to make quick cash, and we both know that. And anyone who's listening also knows that. Don't lie to yourself. And the thing is, like, even with AI art, I mean, the point you said, I mean, it's true, but that's the problem. Like, it doesn't have to be that way. Like with AI, it can be a tool to find references and inspiration, but yeah, I agree with you. If you take a piece of generated AI art and just do a little bit of oil paint over it and maybe add some little elements, that wouldn't feel fulfilling for me as well, to be honest, if I'm honest with you. But the
Yeah,
thing is,
but at least they tried a bit of paint over. Like I appreciate someone that would try something, you know. But if you just take it, like, oh my god, like I have like people that just like send me, like, they're not artists and they send me the stuff that they did, and like, oh my god, I'm so cool now. Like, okay, like if you feel like that way, do this for like 10 years and tell me if you're still happy with it. If you are, like, good for you. But I have a feeling that in just a slow amount of time, you're gonna be like, I don't know what to generate anymore. It's boring. Like I generated everything, and like it doesn't feel like you created anything.
wait, here's the thing. Can you actually search someone on Instagram right now? I want to show you something.
Yeah, sure.
Write Teal Freytag. I'm gonna write his name here. There's in the chat.
It has a cup. Drinking from a cup.
No. Oh yeah, the guy that drinking from the cup. Yeah. The last couple of spaceships he did are like, he put his AI reference and he put his actual piece that he made out of them. Like, look at the shark one or the other ones.
Yeah, so that's what I mean. Like when I see the AR, like the thing that generated, I know it's AR, but at least he painted over it and he
made
gave
it
it a purpose.
concept. Yes.
Yeah, so that's what I mean. Like this is how you should do it. But when I see all those people that generate that fucking landscape, which is like just some weird blobs floating around, like mosquito legs, like everywhere, like there are those tiny things that drip. Like, I mean, I can tell that was generated, and I can tell that you didn't do anything.
Yeah, exactly. And by the way, I interviewed him like, a couple of episodes ago. So yeah, I think his episode will be 178. So yeah, it's probably earlier than your episode. You can watch that as well if you're interested, because we talk about AI art a lot as well. And the thing is, like, personally, like for me, the thing that would be really cool if I want to actually do something that's really put my heart and soul into it, for reference and inspiration, honestly, I would love to just go to nature and take pictures of like every single bit of texture or pattern I see in nature, whether it be a splash of water, whether it be like a formation of moss on a rock near a river, whether it be like its particular type a tree has formed, like rings, or some sort of rock formation, then like implement all of those elements into a piece. That's I think beautiful for me.
And only you can do that. It's like
yes,
that was my point. It's like only you have this lens of life that has gone through you. Only you can show us like what Ramtin can do. No one else, and that's the beauty of art, I feel. Like,
yeah, I know you said about art.
Maybe no one, maybe like only like 5 people will really love what you do in the entire world, which is like a very low number, but still, like you impressed 5 people at the end, and maybe you changed a few lives for the best.
Yeah, exactly.
The point of life is not to impress everyone. It's just like yourself. Like I feel.
Yeah, I don't want to get too philosophical, but I mean, sometimes when I get super tired or exhausted, I'm like, does even like impressing myself even worth it? Let me just live as an animal that I am, and I'll just die. But yeah, I mean, obviously, I'm just joking. But that kind of thoughts happen when you're super tired or mentally exhausted sometimes. But just put yourself the priority. If you're happy with something, you genuinely are, and more power to you. And the thing is, actually, like you mentioned something about like when you were in the honeymoon phase with art, you were learning everything, color and perspective. I kind of reminded me of something. It's the same with basically anything, like even video games. Like, let me give a good example. I've seen you like do a lot of fan arts for League. But like League of Legends, first you try like every single new champ. First you find your main, then you get tired of it, then you go to new champs, and you learn every ability and everything. Then at some point you get bored of the game, and you just end up like in front of like some sort of like level 7 1 million point Yasuo or something. Jesus, but yeah, you get the point. Like it's the same thing with most skills. And I think with that plateau you should just be persistent and go over it, or find new purposes in doing it, because if you can't find the purposes to make yourself entertained with it, you're probably gonna feel dead inside.
Yep.
And
I feel like experimentation is the key, and like believe in yourself.
Yeah, definitely. And actually, I wanted to ask you about something else, which is like, which is right in front of us. I mean, for audio listeners, I mean, you should switch the YouTube version to see what we're talking about. The character on your T-shirt, actually, it's Zika. I probably butchered the pronunciation.
No, it's like actually the Tika.
Tika, yeah. No, Tika, not, sorry. You should don't pronounce it T, by the way, I think, right?
Oh, it's Tika. It comes from Romanian Maimutica, which means tiny little monkey.
Oh, so many
And I
meanings
just
in
took
one
the
word.
end, and I just like we don't usually use K in Romanian words, and we have a dedicated letter for the sound T, which is a T with a comma underneath. But if you write TZ, it's kind of sound like T. And
Interesting. And
so that again was a random thing. My wife had a plushie, and like we have it in our home. It's like this tiny little monkey, and it just caught life, man. Like we developed like a story for not a story, but we would imagine like this mischievous character. So I ended up like for I don't know how many years now I draw this character for fun, and I'm slowly chipping away at like world building and stuff. But yeah, it's really fun. This year I drew a drawing every day. If you just like write Tsika on Instagram, that's where I post everything. And you can see like I don't spend that much time because like I try to do it every day, and I can. That means I cannot spend like a lot of time. So I try to do everything in like an hour, 2 hours max, because I still have to work and make money. But yeah, like so far this year, like I'm pretty impressed with the things I've done with it, and yeah, it just brings me joy. So yeah, like I just like started this project. Like we had the plush monkey, we had the name for the monkey, and then one day I was like, okay, let me try draw it, and I never drew cartoon stuff, and that's where I think that was the beginning of my realization that I shouldn't try to draw only in one style or follow a single thing, like draw only realistic and like try to become this constipated artist that can only like render every pore like perfectly. That's where I started breaking things down, and like because I wasn't a cartoon artist, I was forced to learn about proportion, exaggeration. I still feel like I'm not there as like some of the super professionals, but I recently heard the continuation of Master of None. You know, like. Jack of all trades, but master of none. And apparently it has a continuation, but better than master of one. that would be it. And that's, I feel like it applies to me because like just by approaching this project, I learned so much about color, about shapes, perspective, all kinds of things. Like just like if you go on my Instagram, you're gonna see like I draw Tsika in so many ways and styles that it literally looks like it's a draw this in your style page, but the thing is that I'm the only artist that posts there. All the drawings are, I mean, most of the drawings have a different style, and I only do that because I want to learn and I want to have fun. I don't like I hate not that I hate, but I don't appreciate when big studios find a recipe for something and then they keep on only doing that. I mean, it's like it becomes like a cash grab feel, you know, when a studio makes the same movie over and over again until it's done, like The Matrix, for example. The first one was the best one, and then it's slowly degraded.
Actually, I agree with you.
Now it's like kind of like a joke, and like okay. So yeah, that's like where I'm like, okay, I'm gonna tell as well as I can a story, and then I'm gonna move on like to the next thing. I'm gonna try to tell a different story. But in my case, it's like a different style, and I can't tell you how many times I learned something new from something where I didn't expect it at all to learn it. You know, just like by putting myself in that situation where I don't know nothing about that style, but I tried. And as soon as I start trying, all those previous me drawing the character in different styles kind of start communicating in my head, and they realize, okay, maybe I can apply that technique from that I learned like a while ago while I was drawing this robot to this I don't know, whatever I'm drawing. It's hard to describe because like I have visuals in my mind, but you don't see them right now. So yeah. So what else can I say? Like yeah, it's just a fun project for me, and hopefully one day it's gonna become something bigger. But at this point, I appreciate that it's kind of small and doesn't get too much attention.
All right, man. Wish the best of luck on that. Because here's the thing that I genuinely recently been thinking about. Like many artists recently that I've had on the podcast, like all of them have been working on their personal IPs for years or months or recently, but mostly years. And I honestly love that. I think it's a new trend compared to even 20 years ago or 30 years ago. Not many people were working on their personal IPs. I think it's a really beautiful thing that people are just, learning in the end to pour their hearts and soul into things they actually like. Because, yeah, you get some maybe, I don't know, successful concept artists in the industry, but, at the side, they're doing their, personal projects. And that's honestly something beautiful in the art world that I'm seeing it happening recently. And it's getting more and more of a trend. Because when, for example, a person's IP gets, for example, into a Netflix series or, a movie or something, not even a cartoon, just anything gets successful, and it gets exposure. I really just get happy when I see someone's IP gets picked up and it gets, because it's been made by a singular person and their heart and soul and everything is just, it's a more special piece to me than something that's been constructed by a studio of multiple people like that. Basically, like Disney, they try to engineer movies every year. Engineer movies, like that's the main thing. But don't get me wrong, the artists working on those engineer movies are great artists. I'm not discrediting them.
But it's like the soul, because there's no unitary vision for this project. Like every artist drags in their own direction, or like even the storytellers. And in the end, you end up with something that's not iconic. But if there's a single guy with a single vision and kind of developing this thing over and over again, like that's, I feel, when...
Like George R. R. Martin, like for example, Game of Thrones. Yes, a spoiler alert, ding, 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 ding. But still, although I did a spoiler alert, so I'm not gonna spoil much. But basically, people weren't so pleased with the end seasons of the series, and there's been a lot of changes to the actual plot of the story compared to the books. But all in all, people try to shed on Game of Thrones a lot, but it was a good series. It was. No one can. Anyone who denies it and says it was a bad series, they just want to look cool hating on something. Honestly, that's what I believe. But it was a good series, even if it was deviated from its actual plot a bit. But all in all, it was a good. And that's just one of the examples. There are so many examples. The stories and IPs that get brewed up in someone's mind for years. And here's the thing: I even have my personal IP since I was 17, but I haven't still written it, but the thing is, because it's been developing in my head so much, and actually, by the way, for anyone who's listening, we were discussing how our memories are getting worse by the years go by. But even though that's the case, I still have it completely, perfectly vivid and colorful here in my head. And nice. Someday, when I get when the time and energy, I mean, I know that sounds such a bullshit excuse. I know, I'm lazy. That I don't deny that. But once I actually get some more actual free time and mentally ready, I will actually work on it. And I don't know. And here's the thing: I would still do it even if it doesn't get picked up, because I actually love it, And I think that's how everyone should do their work. Do it even though it doesn't pay your rent. Do it even if it makes you homeless. I know it sounds scary. I know you can't do that when you have a family. But for example, for me, who doesn't necessarily form the family or have a partner or anything, I'm just a guy with a dream.
It doesn't need to be this dramatic, work yourself to the bone until you lose everything in order to make the project come to life. It's like, I'm doing it, and like I told you, 1-2 hours per day. Like, I allow myself to draw this character every day. If I wouldn't set this time aside, I wouldn't do it. And that's the main problem,
Yeah, man, it's fun. Sometimes you just want to chill, but yeah, I mean, having a schedule is always, helpful.
And you know what? I don't know how many times, I surprised myself this year. I literally have no idea what I'm about to draw. And then I burp out this Tsika sketch that amazes me, and I'm like, man, I just needed to start. That thing. Like, I don't see myself as a visionary artist. I see myself as a reactor. Those YouTube channels that react to things. I feel like I would be a really good reactor. Like, maybe that's what I should do for money. But what I'm saying is that as soon as I start something, I allow myself and all my previous experiences as an artist to react to what I'm seeing on the canvas. And then I start thinking, okay, maybe I need to make the head bigger. Maybe I can try that color scheme. Okay, maybe I can improve the story if I add this element here, And yeah, that's how I developed most of the sketches this year. And I'm like, okay, like it's impressive that I'm doing this. Like literally, sometimes I have zero idea what I'm about to do. Like today, like I don't know what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna do a sketch today, but what it's gonna be, I have no clue. Maybe it's gonna be related to something that we talked today. Because usually sometimes I just have the seed of an idea, but sometimes it's just like I just start drawing and I do a couple of sketches, and that's the cool thing about having an IP. Like I know how to draw this character with my eyes closed, and I'm not kidding. I actually tested it and I did like 10 sketches and I posted like 2 months ago. Like I was sitting like this and I was drawing on the tablet, and when I looked, it's not that bad, the sketch, man. Like my muscle memory is so good that I can vary it so much. I kind of like an AI, a generator, and
Hey, that's actually a good scheme. Try to make a website and say, oh, this is the new revolutionary AI. And don't tell people that's actually AI. And people just write prompts and you just see prompts and just scribble something and just send it in.
yeah.
And you can actually get subscribers,
It doesn't work because like people seem to be attracted by photoreal stuff or like rendered stuff. Like I noticed like if I have a good idea with Zika and I don't really render it, it's just cell shaded, it doesn't do really well. So I was like whatever. Like for me, rendering is just like bullshit anyway. Any monkey can learn how to render. But yeah, like sometimes there's no point in render. Like I have a drawing with like Zika only has 2 teeth in the front. And I drew her like as she came out of the dentist and she was looking at herself in a mirror and she had like many teeth. And like, what's the point of me rendering like this sketch? Like that one probably I did in a half an hour, and it was done because like whatever. I'm not gonna stay here and render. But yesterday, like for example, I drew Zika as a Gundam, and I really wanted to render light, and like I drew the robot pretty fast, like probably like 20 minutes, and then like the most of it took me the rendering, and I felt it is important to show this like a Gundam in a much nicer lighting, just not show it just like cell shaded, and that took me like longer. But yeah, that there you go. Like I'm not trying to make anyone happy. I'm just like judging it by myself and whatever. And yeah, that's gonna be my goal for this year, like Zika every day. And then for next year, maybe, I mean, for sure, I'm gonna glue some of these stories together, maybe develop some sort of pitch document or whatever.
All right.
As
Awesome.
ideas, I have plenty now. It's just like about committing to one. And
Yeah. Definitely, I can totally relate with that. And wow, speaking of bad memories, I just wanted to say something, but I forgot. I probably should have written on my notes that I have here, but yeah, here we are. So actually, while I don't remember that, but let me ask you something else. Oh yeah, I remembered. You said something that was really funny and interesting to me. You said like, what are we drawing right now? Most people, we're just drawing, soldiers or hot chicks, and that was actually like so funnily accurate. Actually, mostly in like most digital artists you see. Like the most common concept for works actually is just soldiers or hot chicks. I was like, a hot chick soldier.
And the artists that start, they start with guns. They start to model guns. That's the thing.
I started with the spaceships, by the way. Like, yeah, I love spaceships.
Yeah. Oh, you're one of the different ones then. But yeah, I wanted to say that the first time I tried to do an IP and I was like really arrogant and like whatever. That's what I drew. Like I drew some armored chicks over and over again, and like no purpose, no story, no nothing. Like I couldn't care less about them, but I was so proud when I did, and for sure it helped me progress in my visual art journey, as in skill. But at the end of the day, it has no purpose and like no story, no nothing. And it's kind of bad when you don't have a story. Like, why do you watch a movie? For the story, like not for the visuals. If you want to see cool shit, go outside and look, like you said, in a pond. Like, try to see like how cool the world around you is. Because like,
yeah. And the thing is, like, there's two things I also want to mention. That firstly, that actually, like, legit out of art aside, like, just the concept art and your IP aside, your t-shirt actually really looks good. The thing you made as a t-shirt design actually looks good, because one of my passions, which is still to say, is t-shirt design. And I used to like for a year, like seriously, like try to make like good illustrations and stuff like that. And yeah, like the colors and everything like looks really good. Just pops really good on the white shirt.
I didn't think about like this was an afterthought. The t-shirt, like I print my own Zika t-shirt just for myself. I don't sell them or anything.
So, you should.
Well, I don't want to bother right now. Maybe later.
All right.
But I really like having my own t-shirts, and like I would like, I don't know if you saw Seinfeld, the sitcom.
No, not yet, but I've heard a lot of good things from it.
Okay, there's this character George Costanza, and it's kind of like I don't know how to describe him. He's a funny guy, but the fun is not. He's an angry guy, like. But anyway, he says one point that he could drape himself in velvet if he could, but society kind of doesn't let him. And at the end of the episode, he kind of realized that he doesn't care about anyone. He's gonna drape himself in velvet anyway. So I would drape myself in Zika branded clothes if I could. I was looking like. The question is like, man, like I feel like that's why I don't get a tattoo. It's because I don't know what to choose. There are so many options, you know? And that's what I would do too. Like, and if I had money, I would print Zika on every fabric that I can find, and then I would hire people to design the clothes for me. But yeah, unfortunately, it's like every real world craft, it kind of costs money. Like even oil painting, if you want to do it, it costs you money. You need to buy the canvas, whatever. And it's the same with clothes. Like it's not like digital. Like if I could do my clothes in Marvelous Designer and then somehow 3D print them and I wear them, it would be awesome.
Maybe that's the next step.
Yeah, who knows? No.
And by the way, about tattoos, like, you know, for multiple reasons, I don't think you really shouldn't do tattoos, or you really should give it a lot of thought. All right. What I mean by that is, first of all, you know, that's going to be permanent. I mean, yeah, yeah, I'm Sherlock Holmes, you know, of course, you know, everybody knew that. But the thing is, you also have to ask yourself, is the thing that I'm tattooing, what am I trying to express? Is it, sometimes here's the thing, there are people who just want to tattoo for the fun of it, and actually I agree with that, that's more acceptable to me. But those people who want to like tattoo your ideology and stuff, right? I'm not judging, but if your ideology is something that you really need for it to be tattooed on your body, I mean, that's kind of weird, I mean, honestly. And but I mean, the most important thing to not getting a tattoo is you can't. The chances of you getting away with murder is going to be much lower, so you can be caught really easily. That's the reason I don't really get. Oh my god, this is getting weird. But yeah, but no, for reals aside, like I don't know. I guess I don't really like anything permanent, and I'm a pretty minimalistic person. Like I don't own colognes or perfumes or just any accessories. I'm just a t-shirt with the jeans or something. You know, I'm a super minimal person.
No, I think I would be like a pimp. Like if I would get what I told you, like the ability to make my own clothes and like super easy. Because I would love to learn how to sew and design clothes and stuff. I'm not ruling that out. Maybe one day. But yeah, like I would be like this pimp guy, like in many colors. Like it's funny because like I'm an introvert. I don't like to bring attention to myself, but I feel when it comes to clothes, I make weird choices, and like I like to dress up weird. even though it doesn't show. Like I have a black cap and a t-shirt.
No, it's fine. We all have that eccentric side in all of us. I mean, it doesn't really matter if it's like introvert or extroverted. Like, yeah, I mean, sometimes some people like to wear Batman costumes or Spider-Man costumes on the run out. It's the same reason you want to wear that, because it makes you feel some sort of like, a unique character or something, and that's fine. Like, I mean, I get it, honestly. And wait, let me see. Actually, I've never explored this, but I'm sure there are like costumes that I really wonder, like wear sometimes in the public, like the Costanza guy in Seinfeld, as you mentioned.
Yeah.
Wait, I can't really think of anything in particular, but there are some things buzzing in my head. But that aside, I want to ask you about something else, which you recently posted on ArtStation as well. One of your recent projects have been working on Tiny Tina's Wonderland. How's that been working? How's the working on that project been like?
I only work on that for like a month. Like when I switched companies, I used to work at Volta, and then I went to Gearbox. That project was almost ending, so they asked me to design a couple of boss like creatures, basically, which was funny because I never designed creatures, but I was like, okay, I'm just gonna draw some stuff. We explored a lot, and we ended up with those 3 that I posted. I'm not sure if I posted everything, but yeah, I feel like we really explored a lot. And then later on, like, actually, I'm not sure if I can talk about it, so scratch that. But yeah, like on Tiny Tina, I only worked for like a brief amount of time, and I don't really consider myself a part of the team. Like those guys worked maybe on the game like 2-3 years, I don't know. And they just came at the end, and I felt bad because like on Instagram, ArtStation shared the Tiny Tina whatever, and they used my image, and it felt like, man, like it's like I stole the show from these guys that worked so much on it, and like even the picture that they shared was like Tiny Tina, which I didn't design. I just like they were approaching this idea of like, okay, she transformed into this. It's funny because I don't know what I'm talking about. Like I haven't played the game because I am really bad with shooters, but she's kind of like this dungeon master lord, whatever, and then at the end, like I'm not sure if this is a spoiler or not, but you battle her as the final boss, right? So all I did was paint her purple because like she was supposed to represent the void. So it didn't feel like I'm deserving that. So yeah, like I'm grateful that I worked on that project. It was fun, but it was really brief. And then I moved on to another project. I mean, actually, I started on another project and I was doing stuff for this project on the side.
And well, the next thing I want to ask you is like, of course, in the introduction I mentioned that you're a character artist, right? And
yeah, I wasn't a character artist before Gearbox, actually.
All right, go on.
I was a generalist concept artist, I guess, at Volta, and I worked many years on Anthem, like 3 years, 5 years, I don't know how many years. But basically, Volta is an outsourcing studio, and BioWare outsourced us to do concepts for them, for Anthem. And I was part of the core team at Volta that was doing concepts for Anthem for like the longest time, I believe. Until like the day they canceled the project, I was there. Like, I think, I'm not sure. Did they change jobs just before they canceled it, or? But yeah, I remember we did a lot of design work, and that was the kind of like a pivot point in my art career. Like I worked with some really talented people, and that's where everything started changing for me. And I'm kind of like a solitary guy. I don't really care about being surrounded by people, but this time I was surrounded by some really crazy good guys, which I owe a lot in the way that they I mean, they didn't really teach me. They didn't like say, hey, do this or that. I was kind of observing what they did, and sometimes I would ask them stuff, but they had this. I was probably the shittiest of part of the team, like the most raw. I didn't know how to design stuff, but yeah, like those guys were like really pros, and I got to work for like many years among really great company, and I developed like crazy back then. And that's when I realized, man, like life is like art life is not about drawing like those soldiers and chicks over and over again. Like there's more that can go, and there's so much more that you can do, and yeah, with your stuff.
About like the whole stereotype of like you mentioning soldiers and chicks and like gun modeling for 3D artists and stuff. There's another thing that's been kind of like getting out my mind, which is in environment art. I don't know if you see this or not. Like everyone like who's starting, I don't know, for some reason they all like for of course you add like a human character for a scale in your scenes, right? And it's always someone with a red cape. I don't know if you noticed that in everyone's pieces.
Yeah,
It's
I was going to
always
say that. That's everything I know. I mean, that's the trope, like the guy with the stick or the cape, like sitting and watching the
red cape. Why? I don't know why not purple cape.
It's iconic, I guess.
Yeah.
It's part of our pop culture. Like some things will take a really long time to change, I guess. But some things you grow up with, and you just, that's what you do. You see monkey do, basically. And it takes some courage to stand out and like draw that guy with purple cape. And many people will hate you, but maybe you're gonna be the guy that changed the cape to purple. If you do it cool enough and give a meaning to it. And yeah, red is a really powerful color. Like you cannot argue with red. It's like.
All right, and the next thing is, how does it now? Speaking of, for example, right now in this context, we talked about character art, but I want to ask you, like, how does your design process usually go anytime you want to start, like, working on a new character?
Yeah, well, from simple to complex. Like, I am fortunate enough to work with teams that realize that, okay, we shouldn't solve everything in sketch phase. Like, don't do like this super detailed sketch that, I don't know, just pigeonholes you into a specific thing. So it's like I don't have an analogy, but I start with super basic stuff. Like and thank you for mentioning my gumroads. But I feel why I'm bringing this up, and you shouldn't have also like nobody should feel pressure to buy anything from me. Just like maybe you can torrent it. I don't know. If you do, I appreciate it. Like buying it, of course, not torrenting. But if you just want to see what this is about, I posted some videos on how I approached the ArtStation challenge, which was Space Opera, whatever, I don't remember the name. It's all on ArtStation, basically. And you'll see how I started those characters. I started with stick figures. Like working in a game environment has taught me how to problem solve and approach this thing through stages and try to implement the stuff as fast as you can into the pipeline without like developing the full character, and then you try to integrate it into the game and it doesn't make sense because like nothing is connected well, So I start very simplified. Like I drag everything down to its essence. I play with a few colors. I draw with shapes. I kind of stopped drawing with line art, which was my way to design stuff back in the day. Now I feel like I'm more of a shape designer. I just like put a value here, a color there, based on a skeleton. The skeletons, like why I chose to start with stick figures was because I wanted to come up with some new body types and also like I could do like super fast stick figures in 3D. I use ZBrush and I use the Z spheres to make that basic rig. If I remember right, if I didn't use ZBrush, I used Blender, which again I just extruded some verts and I applied that skin modifier, which kind of gives it like some sort of tube feel. And yeah, like after I had those skeletons, I was imagining how they can move, because that's a huge important thing. Like many people don't think about how their creatures can move, or if you design a gun, they don't design a place to hold it. Like you see so many cool guns that are super well designed by these gun gurus on our station, but when you're just trying to think like, man, like how can I hold that gun? Again, like maybe I shouldn't go into this. This is not relevant. The rule of cool should be more important in video games, I feel. Not realistic, but sometimes you design something that's like so disrupted and like, man, you don't need to reinvent the wheel. For me, it's just like draw the gun, but different, you know? Like I need a handle, a grip, and a barrel. And anything else, you have freedom to change it, but let's respect these rules where we all have the same rig at the end, because like you cannot implement it otherwise in the game. You need to hire another person to do another extra job to, yeah, it's a very complex machine, like working in games. But going back to how do I design now, it's like I try to find a lot of reference. I shoot my own reference if I need to. Like I try to use video reference actually, like most of the times. I feel like if you're referencing something that is like a stock photography, most of the times those people are not the real deal. Like it's a guy holding a sword, but he'll hold it awkwardly or something. So I would rather get a super low res image, like in 420p from YouTube, from a guy that does like this sword fight in real life, and I will look how he moves, and I would stop the video wherever I feel the pose is the strongest, and I try to absorb that, even though it's low res. Like I can compensate with all my knowledge that I have, the rest. Like I can make him high res and render everything super real, but the way he moves with the sword, or like the way he shoots the gun, it's authentic. And a lot of people just look at photos and like I don't need to tell you, like, but you can probably imagine, like when you try to find some running people stock footage and there's just one guy sitting like this, and that's not how people run. Like that you can tell that there's a guy posing like what he thinks like the character is doing. So yeah, I research. I use PureRef to collect all my reference. I sometimes create boards on Pinterest where I collect ideas from here and there. I use a lot of 3D. I use photo bashing if I need to. I don't really like to photo bash, but I use it if I have to, like if the time is not enough. And what else? And then it's just like once I have that rough sketch with all the values and colors, then it's all about rendering, and that takes the longest time, unfortunately. I saw there are AIs that you provide the sketch and then it renders for you, which is cool. But again, I feel those aren't there yet. I saw some, I forgot the name. It's like, but Scott Robertson shared this AI thing that you basically do hard surface stuff and it kind of puts shading on top. Looks okay, but it's not there yet, I feel. But yeah, maybe I'm going to try those things when I need to do production work and I just sketch something and then I provide the sketch. Because I feel like the rendering is like literally like there could be another guy just hired to render my drawings and I feel it's fine. What other guys can do, I don't think they can design like I can do, but maybe I don't want to sound arrogant like I'm the best designer, but I feel like I have some standards and some people don't have those standards. They can render and they could take my drawings to render them, but if they would design, they wouldn't design as well or as I like to design,
All right. And the next question is, who are some of your favorite artists and designers that have inspired you the most?
Well, I'm gonna just say most of the Brazilian community, and spearheading with Rael Lira. That guy is genius. That's the guy that I feel like I learned the most. Like I told you, he didn't really taught me anything like one to one, but I observe him and I learned a lot from him, and I hope I'm making him proud. Like I don't know if he knows that he's this big influence, but yeah. And then on Anthem, I'm still working with Victor Caresma, another great artist. Yeah, like those guys are like super awesome. So yeah, I would say like initially when I started drawing, I felt like the German artists are the best, but now I feel like I don't know, like I'm not following anymore what the current art industry is doing, but I feel it's kind of more or less like six more vodka-ish, you know. Not to disrespect Marco and his team, like man, like those guys are awesome. But most of the stuff that they do is like this kind of soldier guy, which is cool, but it's like I don't really relate to that anymore. I feel like Brazil has this fairy tale feel, you know. When I look at the stuff, it's like magical and like I can imagine like a world that inhabits those people inhabit when I see characters designed by Brazilian artists. But when it comes to the other guys, like it's kind of like the same post-apocalyptic shit, and I'm like, man, it's not my cup of tea anymore. I really appreciated that when I started out, but yeah.
All right. And do you remember the trick question I mentioned in the earlier before we started?
Yeah.
Now we're at it right now. So we reached the final question and section of the podcast, which is called Final Words. All right, I know it sounds a bit dramatic, but let me explain. Basically, imagine this. Imagine like in a window of time of like, let's say a few minutes, you had the opportunity to say anything from a human, Alex Negrea, to another human, and that another human being is anyone who's listening to this podcast at any point of time in the future. So it's basically like a time capsule, you know? So in that case, what do you have to say? It doesn't have to be, by the way, like art related. It could be just anything.
Okay, so to that person that is listening, I have to say,
wait, I think there are some problems with your...
I mimed.
Oh,
I have nothing to say. I have nothing.
Me. Oh my god, I was like, oh my god, is my microphone working or not? Man, you got me.
I have nothing to say, man. Think for yourself. That's all I have to say. Like to the person listening, like I'm nobody that you should listen to. Like I don't have any answers that you look for. So
all right. So I'm just gonna, because here's the thing, my third post on Instagram for each guest is like, you know, that the quotation thing. So for you, actually, it's pretty neat. Think for yourself. Simple, short, straight to the point. You know what? I'm just gonna write that.
yeah.
Thank you for actually, you made my work actually a lot lighter. Thank you so much, because every time, listen, one of my biggest two things that are really bothering me in editing of the podcast. One is like get the profile picture from the guest, which you actually did before we started. So thank you again for that. And the second thing is actually write the text and grammar proof the text the people give answers to, you know. And sometimes I type it as people talk, and a lot of times I have to go back and rewatch that part. You made everything easy for me. Thank you so much. You're actually one of the best, easiest guests to work with, honestly. Like,
Nice.
awesome. All right. Thank you so much for coming by. Where can people find you or contact you if they had any questions? Is your Instagram okay?
Yeah, just like right whenever you see my, like I nuked my DeviantArt, I nuked my, I don't know, Facebook. I am still on ArtStation and on Instagram. For how long, I don't know.
Hopefully,
Like
I'll get to do our social medias as well. Yeah.
yeah, like no, like this world like literally scares the shit out of me. The speed and like no, I'm a slow guy and like I don't want to rush things just because it's a trend. Fuck that.
Awesome.
So,
and yep. So there's that. People can contact you through Instagram. And well, that's about it. Thanks so much again for coming by. And thank you to anyone who tuned in and listened to this episode or watched it on YouTube. As always, you know the drill. If there's any comments or critiques or suggestions, leave them down in the comments below or send it to me personally. No message or thing gets left unread, so, you know, do message if you want. And with that being said, take care everyone, stay safe till next episode. See ya!
Bye everyone.